Good morning, welcome. Today is Saturday, April 25th, and we're so close. This is the 30 Days of Vanilla JavaScript for the entire month of April. I am streaming every single day, 30 days, 30 projects to get better at JavaScript because I've been a front-end developer and a software engineer for about 13 years, very UI focused, but I've done a lot of back-end stuff too. Lots of WordPress, lots of CMS work, like just proprietary CMS stuff. I can deploy, I know my way around a database, I can do that stuff, but JavaScript is like the thing that I think is just the hardest. It's been the hardest for me. And when I was in school, like I do have a software engineering degree. I did that a lot later in my career because I worked for a university where tuition was free. And they happened to have a graduate software engineering program. So I decided to do it. It was very challenging. I spread it out over several years, but it was free. Hello, free. No student loan, no additional student loan debt. I'm still paying off some student loans, but no additional student loan debt. And believe me, there are people in that program going deeply into debt to get through it. So it was for sure a privilege to be able to do it for free. And it was really challenging. Python, not so hard. I think that has a lot to do with the teacher that I had. Java, hated it. Hated it. That has everything to do with the teacher that I had for that class. Anyways, my whole point of telling you this is that I think programming is hard. The UI stuff, HTML, CSS, that came really naturally to me. Although I have spent many, many, many hours over the last 13 years, well, really 15 years since I started learning. I started learning in 2009 and now it's 2026. So 17 years ago, I started teaching myself to code. Holy shit, I have not actually done that math until just this moment. That's a long time. But I've actually I started in 2009 and then I got my first job as a developer in 2014. So yeah, here we are. Anyways, wow, a little trip down memory lane. The whole point is JavaScript has been hard for me, and I am trying to get better at it. I tell myself every year, this is the year you're going to do it. You're going to get better at JavaScript. And I finally figured out, okay, I guess let's actually do it now, right? And I say project-based learning is the absolute best kind of learning that you can do. Courses introduce you to a new idea. Tutorials answer specific questions or problems you may have. Project-based learning, that's where the real learning happens. Because you will think of an idea, you will sit down to build a project, and then if you've done this, you already know the myriad of problems that will present themselves to you as you're going. Things that have nothing to do with what you originally set out to do. They're just going to present themselves as problems that you need to solve. There is no better way to learn. So I didn't want to create another course, a JavaScript course. I am absolutely not equipped to do that. But what I am really good at is projects. So I had this little conversation with ChatGPT and I said, hey, help me design 30 days of problem solving of projects, individual projects where we start really easy and things get progressively harder. And ChatGPT did I would say 90% of the heavy lifting there. I wanted to be able to study ahead of time or prep ahead of time. So it told me things to focus on. It told me the documentation to read to start getting familiar with the concepts. I then refined that list and I sort of went back in my own memory of all the wacky things that people have asked me to do over the years. And I sprinkled here and there some of the things that I had done also. And I referenced some old code that I didn't necessarily show people. I just sort of refactored it as I went along on 2 projects. Everything else we pretty much built from scratch. There were a couple of things that I had to have help on. I had to have ChatGPT give me the final solution. I think it was sorting the table and the code for the image gallery lightbox. And we got pretty far on our own, but we needed help towards the end there. There's nothing wrong with that. And I did learn. So here's where we're at today. We are on day 24, URL query params. Did any of that make sense? My intros are not ever scripted. I'm like literally not thinking at all about what I'm going to say. I just hit go live and I start talking. So hopefully that made some sense. Today's April 25th, but we're on day 24 because we got behind on a couple of days, but we are getting caught up. It was my goal for yesterday and today to double up on some of these projects and get caught back up because I really do want to get this wrapped up on day 30, which is Thursday this upcoming week. And so we can move on with our lives, right? So we're going to do day 24 and day 25 today. Now, day 25 changed. That was originally basic routing, no frameworks. So I started scoping out the projects for today, last night. And this is another thing that I'm glad that I did is even though I had this list of projects, I didn't really fully scope them out or ask ChatGPT to give me the requirements until, just 1 or 2 days ahead of time. And I'm glad that I did that because there are a couple of things that I changed my mind on once I saw the requirements. Where I was like, yeah, that is too much for a 1 or 2 hour stream. I just know myself and I know that that's going to be too much. So we need to simplify this or sort of adjust this a little bit. The basic routing was one of those things. That is something that is better left for a standalone project, in my opinion, not something that I think I should attempt to do on a random Saturday when I'm also trying to do another project. So I think in the very near future, within the next couple of months, I will design a build that is, again, UI focused, where we implement the routing, basic routing, because I genuinely want to know how to do that. You know what, thinking back to the requirements yesterday when I saw them, the basic routing sort of feels adjacent to pagination. Kind of, a little bit, maybe, I don't know. Not quite, I don't know. That's just the feeling that I got. Or maybe not pagination, but slider-ish / pagination. I don't know. It looked complicated. It looked like more than what I should try to do today. So I asked ChatGPT, I said, hey, can you give me something that is like routing adjacent? And this is what we came up with, dynamic breadcrumbs from URL. And I think this is actually a great one because we did this. I mean, we did this in the last CMS that I worked in. WordPress does this. I mean, WordPress doesn't use JavaScript. Neither did the CMS that I worked in last, but there's always some sort of underlying program language to grab, either loop through the pages that you're on by looking at the directory structure, or we're going to do it using the URL. This is not only routing adjacent, but I think it perfectly complements URL query params. So I think today's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to do both of these. I got nothing going on this afternoon, so it takes as long as it takes, although I don't think it's going to take that long. I actually have done quite a bit with URL query params in the past. It is such a common way to pre-filter a page. So for example, imagine, so this is what we're going to do here today. So imagine, let me make this nice and big. Yeah. Imagine that this is a filter, and we should change some of the words here. I would prefer that this actually say keywords. So imagine that this is a filter, and you can filter by a keyword, just typing in any word that you want, a category. We've got this difficulty parameter, so beginner, intermediate, advanced, and then featured. And then we have a button where we can clear all of these things. So as we're choosing these options, we are building endpoints onto the URL. And the reason that that is so powerful, I'll use St. Thomas as an example, the last place that I worked. We had filters, and I mean, we just had filters for everything. We had event filters, we had program filters, undergraduate, graduate, we had just anything, just imagine all the data that the university has, that any university has, that they need to communicate to their students: scholarships, financial aid, just housing, everything. So we just had filter upon filter upon filter. And because every school and college had their own website, they all wanted to build links or link to a filter that was always pre-filled for their program or their college or whatever it is that they were promoting on that page, right? So it's an incredibly powerful way to sort data. So there's obviously no filtered items here. We're not doing that part. That is beyond what I can do today. So just pretend that this would actually sort items. That would be the next step. And I think that this is such a great example of things that I will absolutely be including in future builds. This is the whole point of this, is to make the builds that I normally do on stream, just give them that extra layer of interactivity. I think it's very clear that I've got the HTML, the CSS, the building the layout, making sure it's accessible, making sure that it's SEO friendly, doing the deployment. We've got all that nailed, right? This is the stuff that I think is really going to level up the builds that we do here on this channel. So pretty excited about that. Okay, I want to change some of this verbiage right here, and then let's just get started learning about query params. So let's look at this. I have done this before. It's been a couple years. So I am going to need to, this I haven't done, history replace state and history push state, and then pop state event. Let's just read here what it says. Build a small filter search UI where the selected state is saved in the URL. So powerful. JavaScript focus, URL search params, window location search. I don't think I've used that before. Window location search, reading the query params, setting the query params, updating the browser URL with history push state or history replace state. We never did this, so this is new to me. Keeping the UI state in sync with the URL. Yeah, okay. Restoring state on page load, right. Nice extras. Clear filters button, so that's a yes. Result count. So empty state and result count. See, we don't actually have any items, so I don't think we're really going to worry about these. If we had items, I would definitely want to do that, of course. Preserve query params when multiple filters change. Preserve query params when multiple filters change. I don't even know what that means. Use pop state so the browser back and forward restores previous states. Remove empty params from the URL. So if I had to pick, definitely I want to do clear filters button. And a button reset is not going to cut it, because a button reset is only going to clear what's happening on the form. It's not going to clear the parameters from the URL. So we have to have a little more of a robust filter reset or clear. And I think that I want to focus on this as well. Remove empty params from the URL, which basically means that if all you do is choose a category and your endpoint is, category equals JavaScript, we shouldn't automatically be appending the empty ones also. And that is deliberate. You generally have to be pretty deliberate about that. You have to make sure that you don't have the things that don't actually have a value in there, from what I recall. So, okay. So I'm not going to worry about the history stuff. I'm just not. So we're going to focus on this, this, and this. And I want to update some of the verbiage. I don't want it to be search. I want it to be keywords. So I'm going to call this filter settings. I'm going to call this keywords because that's what I want the endpoint to be, keywords, not search. And I'm going to say type a keyword. I think that's better. I'm going to call this keyword. So we have a category. This name is going to be really important. This is going to be true or false. And then this is how we clear. Okay. All right. And good morning to Go Elmo. He is our mod in the chat today. Welcome all. And let's get started. And I don't have this all figured out, so I'm gonna do what I normally do. There's a big truck driving down the street. I don't know what you guys can hear. I know that I can hear everything though. Function. What is this? URL query params. I'm going to do what I usually do, which is just start typing and hope that JavaScript fairy dust sprinkles down upon me and tells me what to do. This is old. I don't think we need that. I think that we can scope everything to our form. Yeah, we'll do that. And we'll make sure that if there's no root, we just stop. Okay, what else do we need? We probably need our inputs. Let's just define our inputs. I'm sure we're going to need them. So this would be keywords. We'll just call it keyword. And I think I'm going to get everything by the name attribute. Because that seems like the smartest way to do that. Name equals keyword. And then I think we need our category. And Go Elmo says it's going to be a nice, slow learning focused day today. I agree. Yesterday was also pretty quiet, which I think is fine. He also says, one moment. He also says, I will keep watch in case you forget to unmute again. Because sometimes I do that. So this is going to be select name category. What else we got here? So this is going to be query selector all. I'm going to get all of those. And this is difficulty. These are radios. The name is equal to difficulty. And Malik says, did you set up the break timer for today? So here's my plan for breaks. We do need to start taking more breaks. I don't have a set timer or a set time around when I think we should do that. I generally stream for about 2 to 2.5 hours. And I think for a 2 to 2.5 hour stream, I probably wouldn't take a break. Today, we're going to finish one project, take a 10-minute break, and then come back and finish the second one. So if for some reason this gets to about the 2-hour mark, we'll stop and take a break, regardless of when we're finished. But I think we'll finish this in less than 2 hours, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll come back and do the next one. Because I feel very strongly about getting caught back up. We've been a couple days behind in that. I mean, it's not the end of the world to have these projects go into May, but my preference is to be finished. So, yeah. So good question. So yeah, and I think in general we probably should be taking more breaks if we need to. It just kind of depends on if on what we have going on, what I need to get done, right? So here's an input with a name, featured. And what else do we have here? And then we have our clear button. So we'll just call that clear. Yeah, most of the time, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just, I don't know, I just start typing and things kind of start coming to me, I guess. So that's my best advice. If you have my friend Ashley calls it analysis paralysis. I don't think that's a new term, but I get analysis paralysis all the time. And the best way to like break out of that is to just start typing. Just set up your function, decide what you're going to scope to the root variable, whatever that is, and just start defining things. Just get the juices flowing. And Osloy is here, and he says, I am assuming it's a he. Maybe I shouldn't do that. Have you heard of Pomodoro? I have not. I don't think so. It doesn't sound familiar. I will put that, how about if I put that on my list of things to Google? Okay. URL search params. The URL search params interface defines utility methods to work with the query string of a URL. URL search params objects are iterable, so they can be, I know it's key value pairs, right? Yeah. So let's create, I think we need to create our parameters, and then we pass that into new URL search params, right? Pomodoro is a timer. There's a conversation happening out on the street. I'm trying to listen. Okay. Yeah, maybe. We could do this. I don't know. It doesn't really matter to me what we use. I just need to be able to set a 10-minute timer for breaks, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and do our params. So we'll just call it params equals a new object, right? Yeah. So keyword would just be keyword, right? It would just be this. And then category would just be the category. That's convenient naming, right? Difficulty is difficulty. So these are the key value pairs. And then featured is either going to be true or false. So it's just featured. And then I think we just say or I'm going to call it filter params. Equals new URL search params. And then we pass in our params, right? I know there's more to it than this, probably. So there's two things that we have to do. We have to set the parameters first, right, when we're switching around and doing things. And then we have to get the parameters. So there's like, so we're not there yet. We have to set the parameters first. Set. Sets the value associated with a given search parameter to the given value. If there are several values, the others are deleted. So is it just search params set? Explain this to me, Google. Explain it to me. I feel like I just need I just need a very basic example of what all the steps are. Am I just supposed to know? Is that it? Am I just supposed to know? Okay, so here's the URL. Okay. I have to. Basic example of no, I don't want to parse it. I just want to, okay, I know how to get it. Here we go. creating the query string. You can use it to build a valid query string from a JavaScript object, which is useful for API fetch requests. Converts to, then you can use it in a URL. Overwrites or creates the value. Params, I think I just have to how did I used to do this? How do you actually make it do the thing? Parsing the current URL. I don't care about that yet. Creating the query string. Okay, so forgive me. Update the URL with automatically. Put the pieces together for me, Google. Okay, here we go. Set, it is set, okay. So URL, new URL, window location, okay. And then here's our parameters. Update a parameter, set. So it would be, okay, that's too many things. So we need to get the current parameters first with window location search. Okay, so we have to get the current URL first. URL equals new URL. Got it. That makes sense. Window location. I'm just going to do search here first. We'll just do it right there. Update a parameter. So here's our params, right? New URL, search params. So you have to get it first and then you have to update it. Okay. I'm just going to say get URL, new, search params. Okay. So this is params. And then we want to get the URL. Search. Okay. And then we're going to set. Got it. So then we take those params and we set them with the new params. I don't think I need that. So we're getting the window location, that's the current URL, like on page load, right? And then we're getting the current parameters, whatever those are, and then we're setting these parameters. Nothing's happening. Oh, I don't think I'm getting the correct values though. Yeah, I don't think I'm getting the correct values, right? So this is probably, we need to do like value. because we're just getting the inputs. Difficulty. These are all values. I think. This is an open input. Oh, these are options. No, I think you still get the value. Yeah, these are still values. These have values. Yep. And this has a value. It's either true or it isn't. And it's a string, so it's not going to be like a Boolean. It'll just be a string. I can work with that. Cannot access URL before initialization. What does that mean? Does it need to be up here? I can put them all up here. No, I don't know what that means. Cannot access URL before initialization. I'm going to do what we used to do in the good old days. Copy and paste our errors into Google. Temporal dead zone. This typically means you have a local variable or constant named URL that shadows the global URL constructor. Got it. So it just needs to be lowercase, I bet. Okay, we're still not setting anything, but we don't have any errors yet. Okay. So I don't think we're getting our values is the problem. So can I console log any of my... Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Well, let's just start at the beginning. We're just going to console log. This is my strategy when I'm not sure what's happening. I just console log everything and I work my way down. So on page load, what am I going to see in the console? We're going to see all the stuff for window location, right? Yeah. And then for params, there are no params. There are no parameters. So does there need to be like some sort of like listener or click event to listen for the update? Is that what we need to do? Reading the query params, setting the query params. It didn't say that we had to use like an event. There's this pop state event, but this has to do with the history, which I said I wasn't going to worry about. So I don't think that we need to do an event. So, and this doesn't say, or do we have to update the URL without reloading the page? Use history push state to add a back button entry or history replace state to update the current entry to push the new URL. But that is applied to the history. And this just says update values. Use the set method to add or modify a key value pair. Doesn't that happen automatically up here? Don't tell me. I will figure it out. So you can see here that it's definitely being set. Well, this says difficulty undefined. So this is probably, difficulty is probably the checked. But checked is a true false, right? It's either checked or it isn't, but you would still get the difficulty value. Oh, do I have to loop through the difficulties? Okay, so we'll deal with that later. I think I'm just not getting select name category. I think I'm just not. I mean, we're not going to see these things without some sort of like event listener, right? Params set, is this like so the browser is listening to this? See, I don't know how to think about it now in any other terms of like how does it know to change if it's not listening for it? And this isn't being referred to as an event listener. So is that just happening automatically in the browser? How did we do this before? I don't know how I did this before. I just know I did this before. So what if we just put in our own values? Search term here. Just need to see something happening. Okay, so on page load, but it's not automatic. That's what I'm confused about. Okay, you have to hit enter. There has to be an enter key. Here. Okay, thank God. Okay, so there has to be a submit button, but it should be automatic. You shouldn't have to wait for a submit, right? There is no submit, and so I had ChatGPT give me this markup. And if I needed a button to submit, it would have given me a button to submit. And I do know that you don't need a button. You can just hit the return key when you're filling out a form, right? That's the exact same thing as a submit button. And that was like the list. So if we were doing an event listener, it would be submit. So what's the equivalent? So if we did CSS, beginner, featured, enter. Keyword goes here. Then we would see keyword goes here, category, CSS, difficulty, beginner, featured true. What is the equivalent of just typing those things in to search? Because a normal filter, those things update automatically as you're choosing things. So there has to be some sort of listener or event, right? And also, it's not, well, but this is on page load. So if we really wanted to see what it is after, we would console log this. This would still be the filtered parameters, right? Hmm. Search term, category JavaScript, intermediate, and then enter. Now nothing really happens. It only works on this input here. So our URL updates, this is before and this is after. It's still 0. So, but it's probably not a new, it's probably not new, right? Filtered params is just, would just be params, right? Let's clear this. And the enter key only works here. I mean, it gets all the data, but you have to do it there. And it's still not getting the correct information. Okay. Caffeine Cowboy says, do you mean on change? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, on change. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. We did that yesterday with our form, conditional form logic. Why didn't ChatGPT tell me I had to do that? But do we have to do that? The change event. It looks for input, select, and text area. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna ask. I need a hint. So we're just gonna ask. But yeah, I think we do need to do, I don't know how you do it if you're not using an event listener. Okay. So here's the conversation from yesterday. Don't tell me. If you know the answer, don't tell me. I feel like I'm so close. Okay. This is the part of the problem solving that I absolutely love. I really do. I need a hint. Do I need an event listener like on change to set the query params? Yes, but not just change. You want to listen for, okay, so see, I was right. We need input and we need change. Short answer, yes, but not just change. You want to listen for user interaction on the form not the URL. What to listen for. Use input for text fields, the search, and change for select radio and checkbox. On change or change? Oh, it's just the change event. It's not on change. Practical approach. Instead of wiring each input individually, you can do form add event listener, input, update URL. So update URL would be like a function that covers everything, typing and selecting. What happens in your handler? Inside update URL, read all form values, build query params, update the URL with replace state. Not set. Yeah, I'm not worried about replace state. The event just tells you something changed. You don't update one param at a time. You rebuild the entire query string from current form state. What not to do. Don't try to listen to the URL changing. Don't update params individually per field. Don't rely on submit. We figured that out. Okay, it gave me a bit more than I asked for, but why replace state? That's related to history, not actually changing the URL, right? It does change the URL just without a page reload. What replace state actually does? History, replace state, null, empty string, param. Updates the address bar. Okay, so this is what we need to update the address bar. Got it. Does not reload the page, does not add a new history entry. Compare the options. Window location search equals, this updates the URL, but it doesn't reload the page. Oh, it does reload the page. History push state updates the URL, no reload, adds a new history entry. History replace state updates the URL, no reload, replaces the current history entry. Why replace state is better for your case. You're updating on every interaction, typing in search, changing, select, toggling checkbox. If you used push state, you'd get, okay, mental model, push state equals new, okay, same page, updated state. Okay. Let's go back up here. So we're going to do add event listeners for the form. It's both on the form. One's going to be input, one's going to be change, and then update URL. Reading all the form values, building the query params, and then updating the URL with replace state. Okay. So I think we can move this down now. I'm not really worried about console logging this anymore. So here's where we're getting the current set of parameters. Here's where we're updating the parameters, although we have to loop through this. And I think we have to loop through this too, right? Well, actually, let's put back in the console log. Because, well, no, the category, the default value of the category is an empty value, right? Because it's already set to all. So we just need to loop through difficulty, which is query selector all. But what did we do yesterday? Do we really need to do that yesterday? What if the selector is just whatever's checked? Yeah, that's what we learned yesterday, right? That you can just get whatever's checked because only one thing can be checked. So this would be this. Whatever is checked. So this should not be undefined anymore. Reading, okay, hang on one second here. It's, it would still be a value though. Whatever is checked, we would get the value. We don't need to do required. Did I spell it right? Yeah, it's spelled right. Isn't that how we got it yesterday? I feel like that should work. What did we work on yesterday? We worked on this right here. Or is this only true or false? Is this only true or false? Is that why? Let me ask. Can I get the value of a radio input this way, or is this only true, false? You're good. That selector gives you the actual input element, not just true, false. If something is selected, that input element. If nothing is selected, null. How to get the value. So I think we need to just define the values maybe a little bit better here. So maybe keyword is equal to keyword value. Maybe we're just doing too much down here. So do I have to say all of these are let? Oh, and I am spelling things wrong. Look at me. No, this is wrong. This is just the only one that's wrong. Category. category. And I suppose since everything's empty, we have to check first, right? So the value is if it's selected, get the value, otherwise it's null. So keyword would be keyword, are you selected? Great. Otherwise, null. We all know how I feel about if statements that happen on one line. Don't like them because I don't always understand what's happening. Category. There, so now we're checking, right? Difficulty. And featured. Okay, and that cleared our error. Good. So now we're seeing well, this shouldn't be logging true because it's not actually checked. So why would it do that? If it's not actually checked, why would it do that? Oh, probably because no, I don't know. There. Why does featured say true if the thing is not actually checked? Because it's the only one? And category is an empty string because the first thing is selected. Difficulty is null because there's nothing. Keyword is an empty string because it's an input. Why is featured true? It's a checkbox. It shouldn't be featured. It shouldn't be true unless it's checked. So maybe that's the other thing here. Featured. It has to be checked. And it's not checked. There we go. Null. Whoa, look at that. We're learning. Okay. So now we're actually getting the values. We're setting our parameters. This is so cool that we don't have to loop through those things. I love that. Important distinction, dot checked is true false. The selected element, yeah. No loops, baby. No loops. Okay. So let's go back up to here. Okay, so we have to use history replace state. But first, this. We want to do, I call this a helper function. This is what ChatGPT calls it, the handler. I don't know, helper function is what I think of. So do we need to do this function? Update URL. And we take all of this. And then I think we just do root, add event listener. We'll do input first. Oh, but we don't have to do all that. Oh, we also have to do the update URL with replace state. Okay, fine. I'll add that. And then this is change. Update URL. Okay, so there's our event listeners, but now we have to probably do history, replace state with our filtered parameters. That. One moment, we'll give it a shot. All right, let's see what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. Okay, well, failed to execute replace state on history. 2 arguments are required, but only one is present. I can work with that. I can work with that. Did ChatGPT tell us that and I just ignored it? Oh, okay. What replace state actually does? Replace state updates the address bar. So there's null, empty string, and then this. So I don't know what that means. Let's look at the docs. Replace state. Okay. The replace state method of the history interface modifies the current history entry, replacing it with the state object and URL passed in the method parameters. This method is particularly useful when you want to update the state. Okay. So we've got state, unused, and URL. State, an object which is associated with the history passed to the replace state method. The state object can be null. Unused. This parameter exists for historical reasons and cannot be omitted. Passing the empty string is traditional and safe against future changes to the method. URL optional. The URL of the history entry. The new URL must be of the same origin as the current URL. Otherwise, the replace state method throws an exception. Let's just try null and an empty string. But wait a second, doesn't it have to have... Well, these are the parameters, right? So null, empty string, and then these are the new parameters. That's what we're replacing it with, right? Nothing happened. Is this at least updating? No. Throw me a bone. Yeah, nothing happened there. So, I don't think I did this right. This is annoying. I only want to see the result. I don't care about anything else. Shouldn't we see... Shouldn't we see, like, okay, let's practice typing something in. We could definitely do a debounce on that, right? But it's not actually getting the keyword here. So it's not setting, everything is still null, so nothing's getting set. So should I skip this step right here? Or is filter, or is that the problem? I could probably just, how much you want to bet I could just skip that step? Yes, no. Well, it got the first one though. Oh, and it's trying to update up here. We're so close. We're so close. Everything is still null. Everything is still null. Okay. Let's see here. I love it. Okay, baby steps. I feel like maybe this has to be let because we're reassigning values. Right? It wants to work. I can feel it. It's trying to update. Yeah, we're not getting the values. That's the problem. Everything is just null. But it gets that first letter when we type in. So we'll definitely want to debounce this see, now it's not getting anything. Okay. I feel like we're so close. See, I feel these are right. We're getting the URL. We're letting the initial set of parameters be whatever they are on page load. Then we're getting our values. So if there's a keyword, get the keyword value, otherwise it's null. And we're doing everything on input and on change. So is this wrong? I feel like, is this wrong? See, I have to ask for help. I'm going to ask for help from ChatGPT. I want to be really intentional about how I ask for help, though, because it either gives me more information than I want, or it gives me not enough information, and it makes too many assumptions about my current level of intelligence, which is low when it comes to JavaScript. So, okay. I need a hint. I feel like I'm so close. Just a hint. Let's see what happens. Hint. Your issue is here. Let params and here. Okay. URL search is not the current page search string, and params set is a method, not a property. You want the instance you already created. So here's the URL, which is a new URL, and the params is the URL search params. Then use params set keyword value. Also, so don't use this. You want the instance you already created, which I think is this. Yeah, and don't say mental model, which kind of drives me crazy, but it didn't say it this time. So here's what we get for copying Google blindly. Okay, so this says this is just URL search params. What is this? Search params, so camel case, read-only property of the URL interface returns a URL search params object, allowing access to the get decoded query arguments contained in the URL. Okay, so this says instead params is URL search params, then use params set, and we can put these in. Yeah, it just takes them out, so that doesn't matter. So it didn't say that this was wrong. Also, requery the checked radios inside update URL because checked changes over time. Requery. I don't requery. So do another, what does that mean? Requery. Okay, well, let's just see what happens with this. Oh, okay. What's happening here? Oh. So this is not updating correctly up here. So that does need to be set. I feel like this is wrong, but I don't really understand it that well, so. An object which is associated with the history entry passed to the replace state method. It didn't say anything was wrong with the history. So we fixed this. We're still not getting the values though. And it's just pushing an object up here. Which makes sense because this is an object. Shouldn't it just be appending these one at a time? And these values aren't being updated either. They're going from empty string to everything is null. Okay, I don't really care about these anymore. Okay. Ugh. I'm not sure what requery means. This is where I'm at. The replace history is just putting an object on the URL, not the new params. And the values are always null. They don't update. You're turning your element variables into strings/null here. So after the first run, keyword is no longer the input element. By requery, I mean look for the currently checked input inside update URL each time. Okay, so on the query selector, well, I'm sorry, aren't you the one that told me to do it this way? So we don't want an object. We want to do param set for each individual one. Okay, that makes sense. That's why it's a pending object. Okay. So this would just be get the value for keyword or category. There can only be one value. And then for featured, it's either checked or not checked. For difficulty, it's either checked or not checked. Okay. So I'm not changing this. I'm just going to leave this as, well, same for category. And then this would be either, these would be an empty string if there's no value. Okay. And then for this, it's not an object. We do okay, this makes sense, I suppose. These probably can all be const, right? Because we're not really changing anything. We're just getting the values. Oh, oops. Okay. See, we do have to have. Because they're not required fields. There we go. No, its category is not getting updated though. Yeah, nothing's getting updated. It just says undefined. Why are we passing in URL? Shouldn't we be getting the parameters, right? I mean, this is always just this. Why wouldn't we pass in the params here? I don't understand that. Oh, get the value or, yeah, if there's a value, get the value, else get an empty string. Why is this URL? Why isn't it params? And we definitely need to clear these. Oh, did I spell it wrong? No. Yes, I spelled it wrong. We're still not getting the values. I still don't know why it's URL. Why isn't this params? Here, we had it spelled wrong, so maybe this will make a difference. Yeah, it's not updating. I mean, I don't think it matters. It doesn't update either way. Shouldn't this be the replace? Yeah, it's still not updating. Okay. Okay. What am I missing here? Why does the history replace state take the original URL? Doesn't it need the new params? The URL is updating, but all the values are empty. This line mutates it. Okay. Then these mutate URL through params. Okay, so this is valid. The reason your values are empty is this part. You are overwriting keyword from an input element into a string. On the next run, keyword value is undefined. Use new local variables inside the function. What is the difference between changing this value if it's still if this all stays the same? This literally, it does nothing. Changing this name and having this name be here, it has no, it has, what does that do? It doesn't do anything. Keyword is the input element, keyword value. What does changing that name actually do? It doesn't do anything. You're right to question it. The name itself doesn't do anything. What matters is you stopped overwriting your DOM references. Oh, so it wants me to re-query in here. Okay, it wants me to re-query. You are mutating the variable that holds the element, then changing it to have the value so the element no longer exists. Okay, so I get it. This is okay. This is inside the update URL. This is re-querying the value from the original defined value. Okay. I think I got it. Hang on. Let me tell ChatGPT I finally understand. Oh my god. I'm re-querying the values inside the function. I just noticed that. Yep. It's not re-query the first one, only get the element. Well, this literally has the word query, so what else would you call it? Okay. So I'm going to change these to back to const, right? And then we're going to get these. Whoops. So we're getting the value. Getting the value. And then here it's either the value or an empty string. And then this is the value or an empty string. Whoops. We don't really need these. So Nano Akia is saying do not requery. Keyword value just equals keyword value. Okay, just one thing at a time. We'll refactor. We'll refactor. Just one thing at a time. Okay, well that actually did work, even though there's an error. Difficulty beginner, advanced, true. That did okay. That's not working. Okay. How do you spell category? Am I spelling it wrong this entire time? Yes, I'm spelling it wrong this entire time. That's spelled right. That's spelled right. I mean, it's saying that this is an error in the console, but it's updating. Oh, that's intermediate. No. So now none of these are working now since I changed that. And we're just getting errors. Cannot read properties of null reading value. So now this doesn't work at all. This now it's suddenly not work. Why was it working originally? Featured. Let's keep looking. Let's keep reading. no, because, wait a second. So requery, okay, so here it said to change the names. Here it said to change the names. Use new local variables inside this function. So that's what I did. Keyword, input element, keyword value, current value from that input. Keep those separate and it should click. Okay, what does changing the name actually do? This is before I realized I was redoing it inside the function. The name itself doesn't do anything. What matters is you stopped overwriting your DOM references. The real fix, even cleaner. You actually don't need these at all outside the function. You just do everything fresh inside update URL. I didn't read this closely enough. So I'm just gonna keep reading. Do everything in fresh inside update URL. Okay, the names don't mean anything. The DOM is already your source of truth. So instead of managing state like let keyword, you just ask the DOM, what is the value right now? Especially important for things like checked radios, inputs that change over time, anything user driven, because those values are dynamic, not static. Okay, so that makes sense because this is inside the update URL and those are the things specifically being listened to. So we would want to get any changes in the event listener. These things only matter on page load, so that makes sense. What requery really means, now that you felt it, it's just don't cache dynamic state unless you have a reason. You'll start using this everywhere. You'll notice yourself doing const value equals root query selector value inside handlers instead of trying to track it manually. Okay, so let's see. And we definitely need a button to clear these, so we'll get to that next. Okay, so this is, it works for featured. Okay. Okay. Did I miss something? Is that supposed to be like an empty string? Like, do I literally need to put a space in between there? Let's go back up and look. No. So this makes sense. Did I spell anything wrong? I don't think so. I think everything is spelled correctly. Just checking to see if I spelled something wrong. I don't think I did, though. These are all correct. This is. Okay. Hey, should we take a break? I feel like maybe we should take a break. We are close to the 2 hour mark. Um, Nano Okia has given me a lot to think about in the chat, which I definitely appreciate. But I'm having a little bit of trouble, like going back and forth between the advice I'm getting in the chat and what ChatGPT is trying to explain to me. So I'm just like, like what am I supposed to do? And this is the great thing about this whole experience of this whole live streaming experience. I know if I was just sitting here on a random Saturday afternoon doing this myself, eventually I would figure it out and come to the conclusions and get it all right. The hard part about live streaming this, and I kind of just had to have this experience to know it, is that I feel a lot of pressure to immediately understand what the problem is and figure it out, and that's just not what's happening, right? I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and uh, I feel a little anxious right now. So maybe now is just a good time to take a break. Let some of this sink in. I'm going to. I don't know. I don't have any coffee left. I'm on my last cup of coffee, so let's set the timer, shall we? I think yesterday I just did like the egg timer. Yeah, simple countdown timer. 10 minutes. There we go. Okay, so let's take a 10-minute break. We'll take a nice deep cleansing breath in through the nose, out through the mouth, and we'll come back in 10 and we'll resume because we're not quitting today till we get this done, and we're very close. So, and Nano Kia says, it is what GPT is saying. You just missed it. Okay. I'll come back and find it in 10 minutes. In 9 minutes and 20 seconds. How does that sound? Okay. Refreshing. That was refreshing. That was good. I'm glad I did that. Okay. So, Nano Akia says, ChatGPT is right. I missed something. Where are we here? Okay. Is it, yeah, these are new URL, window location, params, URL, search params, input, select, input, 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 select, input, input. Right here. Right here. That's what I missed. Okay. Yeah, we definitely need to clear. That's the next thing we're going to do. We're not stopping till we're done. Yep. Now it's getting updated. Yep, look at that. Okay. See, this is why we have to take breaks. Okay, we don't have to, and I don't think we have to console log this anymore. I got it. I got it. Although I would kind of like to console log the params, right? Let's do that. Can I do that? That's really what I want to see. I just want to see my parameters getting logged. And it just says can I do that? That's all I really care about. No. Well, my URL is going to be my console log. How about that? Okay, so that's working. Let's make sure that we next we need to clear that. So let's do filter my search. That's interesting. Look at that. Should we debounce that? Should we debounce that? We definitely can. The input, where would I put that? I would probably put it around the whole thing, right? So let timer. Can I do this? I think I can do this. Clear timeout timer. And then we can do timer equals set timeout. We'll do 500 milliseconds. It's not really. It's not exactly working, is it? Has to be inside the input. Define timer. Each input stops the timer. As soon as you stop, the timer keeps going. We just did this yesterday. Oh, because this has to be defined outside the event listener. That's why. So this would have to be honestly, we could probably just do it there, right? There we go. Look at that. We debounced it. That's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. Some of it's sticking. Some of it is sticking. Okay. So we debounced our input. Nice. Okay. So now I think there's two things that we have to do. We have to make sure that we're only adding things that have actual values, right? So that's the next thing. And then we need to be able to clear everything. And the reset button won't just work on its own. The reset button has to not just clear the form, it has to clear all of the parameters. So if something is empty, then we don't want to set it, right? So would that just be like if keyword, and I think we can, I don't think we need, well, let's do, let's just take those off. So if keyword, we probably just do this, right? If keyword exists, then go ahead and set the parameter, right? If category, then category. Whoop. Where am I? No, it's not working. So if it has a value, but isn't that what this means right here? Or do I have to have an else statement? What would that even be? Because I don't want you to do it if it doesn't actually exist. And keyword is a value. So if there's no value, then just don't do it, right? Oh, now it's updated. Okay, now, wait, now it's working. What did I do? Did I just not, wait, what just happened? Why is it suddenly working? Kind of. It's kind of working. Okay. Okay. So it doesn't remove it. Okay, so this half works. What's the other half? I'm waiting for the JavaScript fairy dust to sprinkle down on me and enlighten me. Honestly, and okay, while I'm thinking about that, let's also do like a button to clear everything, right? And that it has to be inside of our function. So I feel like that would be, so let's do our clear button, which I think we accidentally deleted earlier. So clear equals root. Oh, this is very challenging. I didn't think this was going to be this hard. Clearly. What is it? Clear filters. Clear filters. So this is our clear button. Which I guess we can just going to do it here. And then clear would basically mean like reset all the values back to nothing, right? So clear, add event listener, click. Wouldn't these just be an empty string? You clear it, those just all go back to being an empty string. That definitely didn't work. See, I guess what I don't get is keyword is a value. So shouldn't I just be able to set it back to an empty string? Keyword is not defined. There is no keyword, so. Okay, so this is not the right strategy, obviously. This is not the right strategy for only adding these if they have a value. There has to be something else. So if there's a keyword, but I don't want to set the parameter if there's not a value. Okay, I'm going to ask for help again. Keyword is not defined. Yeah. So is that just wait, is that just a scoping issue then? Like keyword is not available. So maybe this has to be inside so maybe the set timeout just needs to be here. But I'm not sure. Check your scoping. Yeah. Scoping's hard. I think scoping is hard. Okay, so I think assignment to constant variable. Okay. I think we're getting close. I still can't clear anything. So I think so I feel like we're close. See, why can't this just be a button type reset to clear the form? To at least clear the form, and then this could be separate. I mean, but this doesn't actually remove, that's the other thing, is you actually have to remove them. So clearing the form, yeah, oh, I didn't even spell that right. Reset. So all that's doing, if you're setting the values back to 0, you're doing two things. You're setting the values back to their original state, and you're also clearing the params. So these actually have to be cleared too. So it's not just resetting these. The reset button can do that by itself, right? Yeah, the reset button can do that. It's really about resetting the parameters. So if we go just back to button inside the form, I mean, that doesn't even really do anything. That doesn't even do anything. Setting this back to empty values doesn't even do anything. So I feel like it would be cheating to do the reset value, because the type reset, because I should know how to do that. But why doesn't setting this back to an empty string on click work? Why doesn't it work? It should. I feel like it should. 2 of your selectors do not have string values. They have checked values. That's a good point. But even that doesn't work. even that doesn't work. I feel like it's all about to make sense. Why does it matter if it's a checked value or not? It still has a value. So if featured exists, wouldn't this just be if it's, oh, if featured checked, because that's a Boolean, and if difficulty checked, because that's also a Boolean. Okay. I feel like I'm trying to do two things at once. Let's just stop. Let's just do one thing at a time. This is challenging. Okay. So we're getting everything. Can I clear these things clicking this button? No, I can't. I feel like that's the first step. Can we clear? Let's do that first. We have to clear these items, reset these back to 0, nothing, empty strings. I don't know why you can't do it with an empty string. Yeah, clearing should be, so maybe that is also a scoping issue. It's inside the update URL function. Maybe this doesn't need to be inside this function because, yeah. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe this is completely separate. Keyword is not defined. See, it needs access to this. That's why it kind of needs to be inside of here. But, okay, so, well, but if this is its own click event, you know what though? This click event is still happening inside an event listener with input or change, and neither of those things are happening when we click this. That's why. There is no input, so it can't even listen for the click, because it's inside the update URL. But these cannot get these. So I feel like these have to be redefined inside of here in order to do that. And this has to be independent of an input or a change. The input works on the keyword input, the change works on everything else, right? So I feel like this, so can I also, okay, I'm gonna, hang on. I'm coming up with an idea. So can I just do function variables? I know this is just variable. air variables. Can I just get my variables? And then get my variables. I mean, isn't this how you reuse stuff, right? Yeah. Nope. Difficulty is not defined. Okay, that doesn't work. This is the other thing that I don't mind asking ChatGPT for help, but ChatGPT, I don't know what the balance is in asking for help anymore, because it either just wants to give me the code, just tell me what the code is, tell me what everything is, or I say just give me a hint, and it gives me a hint, but it makes a lot of assumptions about the things that I do understand about what's going on. Yeah, GPT changed your thinking too much. How you had the selector selected outside to begin with was correct. Moving them inside with value changed your scoping too much. I agree. I agree. It made it way more complicated, I think. I mean, I had some stuff wrong for sure. Okay. Nothing is really working. The scoping is way off. I feel like this instantly got way more complicated. I ask you to give me a hint, and you do that. But you make assumptions about what I already understand. I also copy code you print out, and then later you tell me it's wrong. That's confusing and true. I'm not sure what to do next. You're right, this got muddy. Let's reset it. For this project, remove debounce. It is adding complexity you do not need right now. Yeah, I think that's actually the least of my problems. Here is the clean fucking mental model. User changes form, read the form values, update the URL, clear button clears the form, then updates the URL. So now, okay. Oh, params delete. So I did need an else statement. Params delete. Oh, root, reset, update URL. The main issue in your current, okay, so I didn't root reset. I mean, so that's like a thing, MDN, JavaScript. So there are like methods here I don't know about that I'm supposed to be using, I guess. form reset. So this is an actual method. Okay. The most common use of like type reset. So you can either do a button type reset, or you can just reset the whole form. Okay, well, we touched on that. We explored that. So here's the thing. Here's the other thing. When I was scoping the project and building the page, I specifically said, because I noticed this, why is this type button and not type reset? And ChatGPT said, because that will only reset the form. It will not reset the actual parameters. So why would I question that? Why would I go beyond and question that? I was like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. It sort of implied that I shouldn't be trying to reset anything. Like there would be another way to reset these values. Okay. It's moments like this where I can't decide if ChatGPT is like the greatest thing since sliced bread, or if it just makes my life worse, if it just makes everything more difficult for me. So, you know what? And I have to bring that up. Okay. Okay, so we are using reset. When I scoped this project, I specifically asked why the clear button was type equals button and not type equals reset. You said the button needs to reset the form and clear the query params. I didn't question that. But now we're using the reset method to clear the form. You kind of gave me the impression that we don't reset anything. There's another way to do that. Reset the form UI, clears inputs back to default, reset the URL state, remove query params. What I warned you about earlier, when I said don't use type equals reset, the concern was native reset only resets the form, not your URL. Yeah, okay. What you're doing now, we're doing both. Root.reset clears form UI, update URL syncs URL to match the cleared form. So form clears first, then the URL clears. So can you use type reset? Yes, if you handle the URL too. Example, button type reset clear. Root add event listener reset. Set timeout update URL 0. Why set timeout? The reset happens first, then you read the updated cleared values. Why I suggested button type equals button earlier, because it gives you full control in one place. Okay. I did get bad advice. You left out important info about reset. Okay. Okay. Let's go back up to... Okay, let's go back up here. So we are actually pretty close. And you know what? There isn't anything wrong with this. I'm leaving this. This, we just need to update this. So if, what is it here? So it's the delete that I didn't know about. I mean, I feel like that would have been helpful, right? Set and delete. I don't know. I just want to be mad at ChatGPT sometimes. Blame it for all of my faulty thinking. Don't we all want to blame somebody? And then we just params delete. Okay. If category. Okay. And then this is, what did it say to do here? Root, reset, and then update the URL. Well, now I know about reset, which I didn't know about before exactly, and then update the URL. Do we think this is going to work? What do we think? Okay, well, first of all, let's see if we can clear. Okay, the clear worked. The clear worked. Our set timeout works. Category works. What if we go back to all? That should clear it, right? Yes, that works. Featured. Not featured. Featured. Not featured. Clear. Clears the form. Let's do this. This. Remove the set timeout, my eye. Absolutely not. I'm not removing that. Okay, so difficulty beginner, featured true, category HTML. Clear. we clear the form, and we clear the URLs. Okay, so here's the real test. This is why people always wanted this. So here's our URL, right? Copy our URL. I'm going to close. So now we should come back. We should load this page, and we should see all those things pre-filled in, right? Or is that the next step? No, that's the, oh, for the love of the traveling Mary, we're not even done with this yet. So the next thing we have to do is we have to get these parameters, because the whole point of this is that you would use these to build links, and we have to come back here now and be able to fill this in. So this might be the only thing that we get done today. Do we have enough information to do this? I feel like we do. I feel like we do. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. Hold, please. All right, so now we need to get the parameters. I feel like we can do this. We need to, there's get, so we're setting and we're deleting, and we also need to get the parameters. So let's go back here. And I feel like so we've got these things up here, right? So we would get those. We would read the search, right? Window.location. And these things are in window.location search. But I don't think we have to like loop through those. I feel like there's just a get params. Returns the first value associated with the given search parameter. Returns all the values associated with a given search parameter. So we want to get them. The get method of the URL search params interface returns the first value associated to the given search parameter. So params get name. And then we would set that value in the form. So that's I feel like that's a different function. Because this is all about updating the URL. We just want to set the form. So that would be well, first, can we just get the parameters and console log those? But these are not, I'm not going to be able to get these outside of the update URL function. So if my values are all queried inside the update URL function, how do I get the params so I can fill in the form if someone uses the URL. Great question. This is the other half of the pattern. You don't reuse update URL. You create a separate function. I'll take the help. You create a separate function. Read params set form values. So new URL search params, window location search. Okay, so we know that window location search has that string. We're getting the keyword, the category, the difficulty. All of this is scoped to the hydrate form function. And then we specifically set the keyword input to the value of keyword, the select input to the value of category, and then you call it once on init. Okay. I'm going to type this out because that's how I learn. So I hope that's not too frustrating for people. That's what I'm going to do. This is hydrate form. So this is the new URL search params, and we get that from window location search. Now we need our keyword, which is params.get, and we're getting the keyword. Or an empty string. Then we need the category. Or an empty string. Whoops. Difficulty, params get difficulty, okay. So now we are going to actually set the value of whatever keyword and category are. If there is no value, it will be an empty string. So that's root. Root is the form. Query selector. Input. Oops. Name is equal to keyword. Value is equal to keyword. Same for the category. This is a select. name equals category. Value equals category. Can you believe that this is just dealing with the query parameters? This is like completely independent of any filtering that you would actually do if there were items to filter through. And I guarantee you, when I did this in Vue, it was not this complicated. I mean, maybe it was. This is just a different layout. I don't know. This is definitely more I just don't remember this being this complex at all. I did this. I mean, I remember having this big legacy calendar filter that they wanted URLs that they could link to for specific categories in the filter. And they just wanted the page to load and to have it pre-sorted based on those URLs. So all I did was build URLs and pull in those values through the hidden fields. That's all I did. It was so easy. It wasn't like this at all. This just feels wildly complex. And yeah, it was in Vue, but it was legacy. We had so much legacy code at St. Thomas that I would just shove into a Vue component because I could feed data from the CMS. I could just filter in that data from the CMS into those Vue components so easily. But I didn't have the time or the bandwidth or the expertise, quite frankly, to literally rebuild all of that legacy code. We just didn't have time for it. But it was easy to throw into a Vue component and just ignore anything that Vue didn't like because it still worked. And then just grab these query parameters. And I'm telling you now, it was not this complex. But also Vue handles form stuff really easily too. So maybe this is just, this is just the vanilla way of doing it. This is one of the benefits, obviously, of using a framework. That maybe all the structural stuff, this is what's under the hood that you don't have to deal with in framework land. Right? Yeah, I'm just surprised at how complicated this got. Okay, so if difficulty. Okay. So we're defining the radio button. And the value equals the difficulty. So that's the query selectors. We query by name and value. And then if radio checked, because we know that's either true or false. No, it's just if radio checked equals true. So if radio exists, which is basically if the value exists, otherwise the selector wouldn't work at all. So if radio exists, then we just say radio checked equals true. And there's only we pass in whatever the difficulty actually is, because it would be a parameter. Okay, so if featured, basically do the same thing. This is a checkbox. Equals root query selector. This is input name equal to featured. And then we're checking the value. I mean, I guess I didn't realize you could do this as a query selector. You could just double up on attributes. I mean, I guess you can double up on classes, so this makes sense. So value, we're getting the featured. And then if checkbox checked equals true. Oh. All right, now it's filled in. Okay, I gotta close the window. There's someone playing their stereo outside. Okay, I live in a part of St. Paul, downtown St. Paul, where people routinely, like a lot of Door Dashers, Uber drivers, things like that, they just pull up on the street and they're looking for directions or trying to figure out where they're going, and they just have their stereos blasting the whole time. It's annoying. Okay, so now we should be able to take this URL and just go to the page, and that form should just be filled in for us. And there it is. Wow. Took us 3 hours, a little over 3 hours to get here. Um, I thought this was going to be like a 90-minute thing. That's what I thought was going to happen. Yeah. Well, we got here. It wasn't easy though, was it? Huh. Does this need to be outside of the set timeout? Wouldn't that just happen automatically? No, so this does need to be inside. All right. Yeah, we still got there. I mean, I don't know. So this is I feel I think the functionality is really cool and I like it. But clearly I had to have all of this fed to me from ChatGPT. None of this is my code. I didn't do any of this. I just sat here for 3 hours bickering with ChatGPT about good information versus bad information. So I'm glad it's done. I'm glad it's working. I don't want to keep working on any of these things today. So I'm going to change the thumbnail and we're just going to do dynamic breadcrumbs from URL tomorrow. So yeah, I just don't feel excited about this at all. As cool as I think the functionality is, and I know I'll use this, I didn't write any of this code. None of this is me. None of it. I just had it spoon fed to me. And that's yeah. And that was specifically what I didn't want to do, but I don't know what choice I had because I clearly didn't know what I was doing. So there's that. Um I don't know how reading this in like reading these preps or the MDN prep would have even gotten me. Like how would any of the information on any of these pages have gotten me to this place? I don't know. So, well, I guess this is how you learn. So, okay. Well, I'll update some stuff, I guess. Well, I'll at least push this. If I was at work, I would be happy with this, but that was not the point of this. I don't know. I'm glad that we're I'm glad we're nearing the end of this little challenge because it's getting more and more complex and that's not a bad thing, but I'm now getting to the point where these are things I don't want to stream anymore because there's so much pressure to just come up with the answer, instantly understand what's happening. Yeah, and that's just not happening. I need to be able to stare at something for an hour. I need to be able to console log something 25 times and not have it work. And that's just so hard to do in this environment. So I'm I'm just glad that I'm almost done with this and we can go back to doing the things that I actually know how to do because this is the pressure to like figure all this out is like it's almost too much. So, um, what is this? This is the query params JS and form. So I'm going to put this on the list along with sortable table and the image lightbox gallery. So there's like a top 3 of things that I really didn't do. Yeah, GPT moved you away from a good solution which would have helped you. Yeah. I mean, maybe I just need to spend some time getting more familiar with some of these things. I don't know. We'll do this again in the future. So I do understand everything eventually that we did today. I just don't know how I was supposed to with the and I just lost it. I don't know how with these requirements I was supposed to get to where we got today. So you're telling me that I was supposed to read this documentation Okay, well, to be fair, so URL search params. Why did it tell me to do this when we ended up when we did this? So what was the point of having me of putting this in here? The URL search params interface defines utility methods to work with the query string of a URL. Did we use that? Oh, we used it here to get it. That's why. Okay, so I didn't I was not using this correctly. This is to get the parameters. Yeah. Yeah, this was really challenging. Okay, well, documentation only helps if you know how it's going to help. Yeah, it would seem so. You know what? Let's just call it a day. I will update thumbnails and titles accordingly. Tomorrow, I think then tomorrow we're just gonna work on the dynamic breadcrumbs and not try to double up. That worked yesterday. Apparently, that's not going to work today. This is dynamic breadcrumbs from URL. Read the current URL path and generate a breadcrumb trail. So window location, path name. We need to split the path. Filter and map sounds aggressive. String cleanup, create element, append, setting the href, aria current page. So nice extras. Convert day-25 to day 25. Convert URL query params to URL query params. Oh, so this is just a title. Got it. Hide the breadcrumbs on the home page. Add a fallback label map. for prettier names. Add a fallback label map for prettier names. Use separators with CSS instead of hard coding. Okay. Famous last words, but this looks doable. So let's work on this tomorrow. And then what else do we have? We only have a few days left. So we've got to drag and drop, reorder a list, resizable panels or split view, keyboard shortcuts, intersection observer, a settings or preferences panel. All right, well, let's see how it goes. But this is what we're going to work on tomorrow. I guess we'll go from there. Okay, everybody. And Dermorzy says, this is to not accidentally manipulating the real window location and forcing a reload. So I think that Dermorzy is saying cheers. Cheers, everybody. That we didn't accidentally manipulate the real window location or force a reload. So that's a win. Except again, I don't think it's my win. I think ChatGPT fed me information, but I don't know. Sometimes I guess that's how you learn. We'll get better at it eventually. So, do me a favor. If you haven't already, would you be so kind as to like this video? All 4 of you, 3 of you watching. Subscribe if you aren't already. Come back tomorrow. We'll keep working on it. I'm feeling a little defeated today. I feel a little bad about myself that it didn't magically. I sometimes sit down here and I wait for the JavaScript fairy dust to sprinkle down on me and just magically give me the insight that I almost never have. So have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I will see you tomorrow. We're going to keep plugging away. Some days just suck, okay? All right. Good night.